In the hours before dawn, when the world holds its breath between night and morning, the Nuka-Cola Quantum facility breathes with the quiet devotion of machines that never sleep. Amber safety lights cast long reflections across polished steel surfaces, their warm glow transforming rails and housings into a gentle topography of gleam and shadow. The air carries the soft percussion of automated systems, the whispered hiss of steam, the measured click of conveyor belts, and the distant murmur of quality control stations where the night shift tends to their charges with the practiced grace of experienced caregivers. Molten glass flows like liquid starlight through the forming chambers, each droplet of silicate carrying within it the potential for transformation. The heat is immense yet contained, a focused warmth that speaks of careful engineering rather than chaos. Temperature sensors monitor the cooling process with electronic vigilance, ensuring that each bottle achieves the precise molecular structure required for optimal luminescence. In this vast, meticulously maintained space, thousands of bottles rest like sleeping children in their mechanical nursery, waiting for the gentle touch that will awaken their inner light. Dr. Sarah Morrison adjusts her safety glasses and approaches Station 7, where the isotope calibration process reaches its delicate crescendo. Her clipboard catches the facility's amber light as she records the evening's measurements, each notation made with the careful precision of someone who understands that numbers carry weight beyond their mathematical value. The strontium-90 injection system operates with clockwork reliability, its mechanical arms moving in choreographed patterns that speak to decades of engineering refinement and human oversight. Tonight, however, something whispers at the edge of Sarah's attention, a subtle variance in the isotope concentration readings that would escape casual notice but registers clearly to her trained eye. The difference measures mere fractions of a percentage point, well within acceptable parameters, yet somehow significant in ways she cannot yet articulate. She pauses, her pen hovering over the standard notation box, watching as the diagnostic readouts paint their electronic portraits of molecular precision. The strontium-90 isotope, introduced at exactly the right moment in the cooling cycle, disperses through the glass matrix like seeds scattered in fertile soil. Each bottle receives its measured dose, the atomic particles settling into the crystalline structure with mathematical precision. Yet in one particular vessel, a minute variation occurs. Not a flaw, but a unique signature, born from an almost imperceptible deviation in the infusion process. This singular characteristic creates an unusually stable luminescence, a deeper, more consistent radiance that sets it apart from its siblings, like a voice holding one long note just a breath longer than the rest. Our bottle emerges from its glass cocoon, carrying this subtle difference within its walls. The quality control station bathes it in diagnostic light, revealing the microscopic geography of its surface and the deeper architecture of its molecular composition. Sarah's instruments register the isotope concentration with digital precision, their readouts confirming what her intuition has already suggested. This bottle carries something extraordinary, a stability of luminescence that exceeds even the exacting standards of Nuka-Cola's premium quantum line. She reaches for her official ledger first, making the required technical notation with practiced efficiency. But then, with a subtle shift in her posture, she produces a smaller, personal notebook from the inner pocket of her lab coat, a leather-bound journal distinct from corporate documentation. In careful handwriting that reflects years of scientific training, she records not just the technical specifications, but her observations about the bottle's unusual properties. The notation includes a small sketch of the luminescence pattern and a reference number that corresponds to her growing collection of anomalous samples objects that seem to whisper secrets about the intersection of human intention and atomic behavior. This private journal represents more than mere curiosity. Sarah has developed a quiet dedication to recording the full tapestry of her work, even the threads that seem insignificant at the time. Her dual documentation system, official reports for corporate requirements, personal observations for scientific integrity, reflects a deeper commitment to truth that extends beyond the boundaries of her job description. She makes an additional entry: isotope stability anomaly, monitor downstream, followed by a small asterisk that means nothing to anyone else, but will prove prophetic in ways she cannot imagine. The conveyor system accepts our bottle with mechanical tenderness, its rubber surfaces designed to cradle each container as it moves toward the packaging stations. Thousands of other bottles accompany it on this journey, their collective glow creating a river of blue light that flows through the facility like captured aurora. Yet even among this constellation of luminescent siblings, our bottle maintains its distinctive pulse, a slightly brighter, more stable radiance that speaks to the care invested in its creation. Automated arms, efficient and tireless, guide bottles into cardboard crates with the gentle precision of experienced hands. Each box receives its protective seal, an identifying label, transforming individual vessels into organized units ready for distribution. Our bottle, resting securely within its protective casing, alongside 11 companions, pulses with its steady internal light, a tiny self-contained beacon utterly unaware of the extraordinary journey that lies ahead. As the first hints of grey light begin to filter through the high factory windows, the facility's rhythm begins to shift toward the changing of the guard. Coffee brewers activate automatically in the break rooms, their gentle gurgling joining the symphony of industrial sounds that provide the heartbeat for this temple of consumer manufacturing. The night shift performs their final routines with the quiet satisfaction of craftspeople who take pride in their precision, their clipboards filled with documentation that transforms individual effort into collective achievement. Sarah completes her station checks and secures her equipment with methodical care, understanding that tomorrow's success depends on today's attention to detail. She pauses at the observation window overlooking the packaging line, watching as our bottle disappears into its cardboard casing, its glow emanating softly through the protective walls like a promise of wonder yet to be discovered. In her coat pocket, the personal notebook rests against her side, its pages filled with questions that grow more intriguing with each passing shift. The morning shift arrives with the gradual lightening of the eastern sky, their voices carrying the gentle energy of fresh coffee and shared purpose. They greet the night shift with familiar warmth, exchanging brief reports and observations that maintain the continuity of care across the changing hours. Sarah hands over her official documentation, but keeps her personal notebook close, its leather cover worn smooth by years of careful handling. Distribution trucks wait with patient reliability at the loading docks, their engines settling into idle rhythms that sound like contented animals. Manifest copies slide into plastic sleeves, creating the paper trail that will guide our bottle through its first transition into the wider world. A supervisor initials the documentation with practiced efficiency, the act marking the transfer of care as surely as any ceremony. Our bottle, now sealed within its protective packaging, begins its journey toward the loading bay, where the morning light grows stronger with each passing moment. The blue glow that emanates through the cardboard walls carries within its atomic structure not just the potential for consumer satisfaction, but the seeds of a mystery that will unfold across decades and touch lives in ways no corporate planning committee could have anticipated. It moves forward, carrying both the intentions of its creators and the careful observations of a quality control specialist whose dedication to truth will prove more significant than any marketing campaign could ever be. The facility settles into its daytime rhythm as our bottle rolls toward its first transition, the steady pulse of its unusual luminescence keeping time like a sleeping heartbeat, ready to awaken in the hands of the next caretaker, who will recognize its quiet significance and guide it toward its destined role in the larger story yet to unfold. The delivery truck's gentle rumble carries our bottle through the pre-dawn quiet toward Wickshire distribution, where Harold Wickshire's keys catch the first amber light, filtering through frosted windows. The facility breathes with the patient rhythm of a well-tuned clock, its vast interior organized with the methodical precision that comes from understanding how objects move through the world and into the lives of people who depend on them. Harold's morning ritual unfolds with practiced grace as he disengages the security system and steps into the warehouse's cathedral-like space. Rows of pallets stretch toward the distant ceiling, each positioned with mathematical care to optimize both storage efficiency and the human movements that will guide products toward their destinations. The concrete floor, polished to a subtle gleam by years of careful maintenance, reflects the overhead lighting that Harold activates in sequence, bringing the space to gentle life like a conductor awakening an orchestra. Reading glasses perch comfortably on his nose as he approaches the environmental control station, where overnight temperature logs await his review. His pen traces the steady curves that document how carefully maintained conditions preserved thousands of products through the dark hours. Each notation receives his attention because Harold understands that temperature variations, however minor, can affect product quality and ultimately disappoint the customers who trust his stewardship. Humidity stable, refrigeration units nominal, doors sealed, each confirmation carries the weight of promises kept. The manifest review follows with the same methodical attention. Delivery schedules examined not as mere logistics, but as a network of human connections stretching across the region. Harold sees beyond the numbers to the communities they represent. Corner stores that serve as neighborhood gathering places, restaurants that bring families together, vending machines that provide comfort during long shifts. His finger traces routes on laminated maps, calculating not just efficiency, but considering the human rhythms that make each destination unique. Forklift operators arrive with the expanding daylight, their greetings warm but brief as they begin the gentle choreography that transforms overnight arrivals into organized inventory. The machines purr with well-maintained contentment as they glide across polished concrete, their operators moving with unconscious grace born from years of practice. Pallets rise and settle with mechanical precision, yet each movement carries the careful attention of craftspeople who understand that their work connects distant factories to local communities. Our bottle, nestled within its protective crate among hundreds of others, travels this careful dance of distribution with the patience of an object that has found itself in competent hands. The cardboard walls bear shipping labels and handling instructions, each marking a testament to the complex systems ensuring safe passage from creation to consumption. Its blue glow emanates softly through the packaging, a gentle radiance speaking to both atomic precision and invested care. Harold's weekly spot check routine brings him to the Nuka-Cola Quantum section as morning light shifts from amber to gold. His practiced eye surveys inventory with the attention of someone who has learned to read the subtle language of commercial goods. Batch numbers, expiration dates, and shipping codes tell stories to those who understand their significance, revealing hidden narratives of supply chains and quality control that most consumers never consider. When he reaches our bottle's crate, something catches his collector's attention. A subtle variation in the luminescence emanating through cardboard walls. Harold pauses, his instincts awakened by the slightly more intense glow, distinguishing this particular container from its neighbors. He removes his inspection clipboard and makes a marginal note in careful handwriting. Batch QU77S7, luminescence stability above norm. Cross-ref factory notation. The detail reflects not just professional diligence, but genuine curiosity about objects passing through his care. His personal camera emerges from his jacket pocket, a well-maintained device that has documented thousands of unusual shipments over the years. The photograph he takes captures visual evidence of the anomalous glow, while representing his commitment to preserving small mysteries that make his work more than mere logistics. These images fill albums in his office, creating an informal archive of interesting items flowing through American commerce's arteries. The afternoon brings familiar sounds. The school bus stopping at the corner, followed by light footsteps approaching the warehouse entrance. Harold's daughter Emma, 12 years old with her father's eye for detail and her mother's sense of wonder, appears carrying her backpack and the day's accumulated questions about how the world works. Her after-school visits have become part of the warehouse's rhythm, her presence adding warmth to methodical precision. Emma approaches the quantum display with reverence reserved for things that seem to hold magic within ordinary forms. The bottle's collective glow creates a constellation of blue light, transforming the utilitarian warehouse into something approaching enchantment. Harold watches with quiet pride as she examines the unusual luminescence, her young mind formulating questions about how light can live inside glass and why some bottles seem brighter than others. Why do they glow the same, but not exactly? She asks, echoing the eternal curiosity of children who notice what adults often miss. Different batches, Harold explains with patient clarity, and sometimes, even in the same batch, a single one will be itself a little more than the rest. Not better, just itself. His explanations unfold like stories about human connection and mutual dependence. He describes how things move from place to place, how numbers on manifests represent real communities with real needs, how careful attention from many people ensures products reach destinations in perfect condition. Emma listens with focused attention, her questions revealing both curiosity and the beginning of systematic thinking about the networks that connect her world. Through their conversations, the warehouse transforms from commercial facility into classroom, where distribution mysteries become lessons about human cooperation. Harold's meticulous record-keeping, his practice of photographing unusual items, his deep understanding of regional supply networks reveal themselves as threads in the larger tapestry of pre-war commerce. A system built on trust and competence, connecting communities across vast distances. As autumn light begins shifting through warehouse windows, painting the organized space in shades of gold and amber, Harold prepares the day's final shipments with characteristic care. Our bottle's crate receives his personal handling as he loads it onto the delivery truck, movements carrying the unconscious grace of someone who has spent decades tending to others' needs. The truck driver, a regular route partner whose reliability Harold has come to depend upon, accepts the manifest with familiar efficiency. Their brief conversation covers weather conditions and traffic patterns, but beneath professional exchange lies deeper understanding that they are partners serving something larger than individual profit. Harold steps back as the truck pulls away from the loading dock, our bottle beginning its next transition, accompanied by his marginal notation and photographic documentation. The unusual luminescence that caught his collector's eye carries forward not just atomic properties, but human attention, the kind of careful observation that transforms ordinary commerce into acts of stewardship and connection. The warehouse settles into evening quiet as Harold completes his closing routine, keys securing the facility that will rest until tomorrow's cycle begins anew. In his office, the photograph of our bottle's unusual glow joins hundreds of others in albums chronicling the interesting and anomalous, creating an informal record of mysteries flowing through careful networks of human commerce. Each image, a small testament to wonder, persisting even in the most methodical systems of distribution and care. Our bottle travels forward through the gathering dusk, its steady blue pulse carrying both the precision of its atomic structure and the accumulated attention of those who have recognized its quiet significance. Moving toward a corner store where glass doors will soon reflect small-town afternoons, and curious eyes will pause to consider the light that lives within. The delivery truck settles into silence beside May's corner market, as Harold's carefully documented shipment completes its journey from warehouse to storefront. May Henderson emerges through the glass doors that have welcomed this neighborhood for 23 years, her movements carrying the quiet confidence of someone who has transformed routine into ritual. The morning air holds autumn's promise as she signs the manifest with practiced efficiency, her signature marking another successful link in the chain connecting distant factories to local needs. May's keys find their locks with unconscious precision as the store awakens around her touch. Fluorescent lights flicker to life in sequence, revealing shelves arranged with careful attention to both practical access and visual appeal. Dust motes dance through window displays where morning light creates golden columns, transforming the utilitarian space into something approaching sanctuary for the neighborhood souls who will soon begin their daily pilgrimage for necessities and small comforts. The refrigeration units respond with mechanical contentment as May checks overnight temperature logs, her reading glasses catching the soft light. Each notation confirms that products entrusted to her care have been preserved through the dark hours with electronic vigilance supplementing human dedication. The gentle hum of cooling systems provides a meditative backdrop, a constant presence that speaks of preserved freshness and careful maintenance developed over decades of stewardship. Our bottle finds itself cradled within the refrigerated sanctuary alongside hundreds of siblings, the collective blue glow creating an underwater atmosphere of gentle luminescence. May's practiced hands arrange the new inventory with geometric precision, each bottle positioned to optimize both visual appeal and customer access. Yet as she handles our particular container, something whispers at the edge of her attention. The same subtle variation in luminescence that caught Harold's collector's eye during his warehouse inspection. She pauses, holding our bottle up to the cooler's internal lighting, watching how its glow seems steadier and slightly more intense than its companions. The difference measures barely perceptible to casual observation, yet May's years of intimate familiarity with product displays make her sensitive to variations that would escape less experienced notice. Her sales journal, a leather-bound ledger that has recorded thousands of transactions and observations, receives a brief notation in careful handwriting: Quantum Batch QU 77S7, unusual luminescent stability, monitor customer response. The entry joins decades of similar observations, creating an informal archive of commercial patterns and community preferences that reveals May's deep understanding of how products move through people's lives, and what small details matter to those who trust her stewardship. Behind the counter, a mason jar catches morning light, its contents representing her practice of preserving unusual bottle caps, some embossed with seasonal logos, others bearing rare markings that speak to manufacturing variations or limited releases. The first customers arrive with the expanding daylight, their greetings carrying the warmth of long familiarity. Mrs. Patterson, who has purchased her morning coffee here for 15 years, pauses at the quantum display with curiosity brightened by the new arrival's distinctive glow. Her conversation with May unfolds with the comfortable rhythm of neighbors who have shared countless small exchanges that build community, one interaction at a time. That one seems brighter than usual, Mrs. Patterson observes, her finger tracing patterns on the cooler glass as she studies our bottle's luminescence. New batch from the factory, May explains with patient clarity, her voice carrying the gentle authority of someone who has learned to translate technical details into human terms. Sometimes they get the isotope mixture just a little different. Nothing wrong with it, just its own way of being itself. Their discussion reveals the casual relationship pre-war society maintains with technological marvels. Atomic energy transformed into consumer convenience with the same acceptance previous generations, granted electric lighting or refrigeration. The conversation flows naturally from product curiosity to family updates. May's genuine interest in Mrs. Patterson's grandchildren, creating connections that extend far beyond commercial transaction. Children discover our bottle throughout the morning, their faces pressed against cooler glass with wonder reserved for things that seem to hold magic within ordinary forms. 7-year-old Michael Chen spends long minutes studying the luminescence patterns, his breath fogging the glass as he whispers questions about how light can live inside bottles and whether different colors mean different flavors. It looks like it has a sky inside, a young girl tells her mother, voice hushed as if the bottles could hear. May approaches with a clean cloth and genuine warmth in her eyes. All bottled skies are kept on this shelf, she replies, wiping the glass in light circles that leave it clearer than before. That's the rule. The child nods as if entrusted with something important, and May understands that wonder, properly tended, becomes the foundation for curiosity that lasts lifetimes. Regular customers flow through the store with tidal regularity, their patterns revealing the social fabric of a community built on trust and mutual recognition. May greets each by name, her genuine warmth transforming commercial exchange into acts of neighborly care. When Mr. Davies asks about the new quantum variant, she explains that science is simply magic. We've learned to understand, and magic is the name we give to science when we meet it early enough to still feel wonder. The afternoon brings familiar rhythms, school buses stopping at corners, backpacks brushing door frames, the particular energy of young voices discovering the world through questions and observations. Among the faces that pause at the cooler glass, one lingers with deliberate attention, a boy whose gaze traces the row of bottles with scientific curiosity, noting batch codes and luminescence variations with the systematic approach of someone already learning to see patterns within apparent randomness. Our bottle observes these human rhythms from its refrigerated perch, its steady glow providing gentle illumination for countless small dramas of daily life. Each interaction adds layers of human attention to the atomic precision contained within glass walls, transforming manufactured product into community artifact through accumulated recognition and care. As evening light begins filtering through windows with golden intensity, May performs her closing routine with characteristic thoroughness. Temperature checks, cash reconciliation, inventory adjustments. Each task completed with the methodical care that ensures tomorrow's success. Her final notations in the sales journal record customer responses and unusual observations, creating records that transform individual transactions into collective memory. Before locking the doors, May circles the store like a gardener at dusk, straightening displays and ensuring everything rests in perfect order. At the quantum cooler, she pauses to consider our bottle's placement within the refrigerated geography. The unusual luminescence deserves recognition, she decides, adjusting its position slightly to catch light more effectively and placing it where curious eyes will find it most easily. The gesture carries significance beyond mere merchandising, representing 23 years of accumulated wisdom about how small details affect customer experience and how careful attention to presentation becomes an act of community service. May understands that her store functions as more than commercial space. It serves as neighborhood gathering place, informal community center, and repository for the small comforts that make daily life more pleasant. The mason jar of bottle caps catches the last rays of sunlight streaming through the front windows, its contents creating prismatic reflections that dance across walls and ceiling. May adds the day's unusual caps to her collection, each one representing a small mystery preserved for future consideration, unaware that these seemingly insignificant objects will someday serve as breadcrumbs leading back to forgotten truths. Our bottle settles into its new position with the patience of glass and the poise of something that has found its proper place in the world. Its blue glow pulses steadily as the store embraces evening quiet, the unusual luminescence now recognized and appreciated by careful attention from someone who understands that extraordinary things often hide within ordinary appearances. The community's gentle embrace has begun, preparing our bottle for the next phase of its journey toward recognition as something more than consumer product, something approaching wonder made manifest in glass and light, waiting for the arrival of young eyes that will see not just a glowing bottle, but a mystery worthy of systematic investigation and devoted care. The familiar chime of May's door announces Saturday afternoon's most anticipated arrival, as Tommy Nakamura steps through the entrance with his grandmother Aiko, their weekly allowance expedition carrying the gentle rhythm of established ritual. The autumn light filtering through May's windows catches the edge of Tommy's notebook as he approaches the quantum display with focused attention that transforms casual shopping into scientific expedition. Aiko follows with patient steps, understanding that curiosity properly nurtured requires unhurried space to flourish. Tommy's eyes scan the refrigerated constellation with systematic precision developed through months of dedicated collecting. Each bottle receives methodical examination as his trained gaze catalogues batch numbers, manufacturing dates, and luminescence patterns, with the careful attention of someone who has learned that details reveal stories invisible to casual observers. His approach reflects not mere acquisition, but genuine scientific inquiry, the kind of passionate investigation that transforms childhood interests into lifelong pursuits. When his attention reaches our bottle, something shifts in his posture, with recognition of extraordinary hiding within ordinary. The unusual luminescence that caught May's experienced eye and Harold's collector's instincts now captures the focused scrutiny of someone whose entire world revolves around understanding Nuka-Cola variants in their manufactured diversity. He leans closer to the cooler glass, breath fogging the surface momentarily as he studies the isotope intensity that makes our bottle glow with steadier radiance than its shelf mates. Batch QU77S7, he whispers, reading the production code with practiced fluency while removing his notebook from his jacket pocket. The pages reveal careful observations and detailed sketches that would impress professional archivists, each entry documenting discoveries made during previous expeditions. His notation reflects both scientific curiosity, and genuine wonder. Luminescence stability approximately 15% above standard variant. Isotope concentration possibly anomalous. May approaches with warm recognition, understanding that Tommy's visits represent something deeper than commerce. Their relationship has evolved through months of shared enthusiasm, his encyclopedic knowledge earning genuine respect from someone who has observed countless customers, but rarely encountered such dedicated passion in someone so young. She remembers Harold's marginal notation about this particular batch, and Tommy's systematic approach to documentation, recognizing kindred spirits separated by decades, but united by careful attention to detail. That one's been making friends all week, May observes, nodding toward the curious smudges on cooler glass left by morning visitors. Something special about how they mixed the isotopes at the factory came in with Harold's notation about unusual luminescent stability. Tommy's explanation unfolds with earnest precision that only children possess when discussing subjects capturing their complete devotion. He describes manufacturing processes with technical accuracy, acquired through correspondence with other young collectors, and careful study of promotional materials most adults discard without consideration. His knowledge encompasses production variations, regional distribution patterns, and subtle differences between batches that speak to quality control variations across manufacturing facilities. The strontium-90 concentration appears elevated but stable. He explains to Aiko, who listens with patient attention, born from understanding that passion properly encouraged becomes foundation for lifelong learning. Most quantum variants show luminescence decay over time, but this one seems to maintain consistent output. It might relate to glass composition or isotope purity during manufacturing. Aiko nods with gentle encouragement, recognizing that Tommy's enthusiasm represents more than childhood fascination. Through months of observation, she has watched his collecting evolve from simple acquisition into systematic study, his bedroom transforming from living space into informal museum, where each bottle receives careful documentation and respectful display. The transaction proceeds with ceremony appropriate to significant acquisitions. Tommy counts his allowance with careful precision, while May wraps our bottle in protective tissue, with attention reserved for precious objects. The exchange carries weight beyond commercial value, representing mutual recognition between serious collector and understanding proprietor, who appreciates dedication wherever it appears. Their journey home unfolds through tree-lined streets where neighbors tend autumn gardens with seasonal devotion. Maple leaves drift with golden languor as afternoon light filters through elm branches like liquid amber, creating dappled patterns on sidewalks where Tommy's careful steps protect his precious cargo. His conversation reveals depths of curiosity extending beyond simple collecting into genuine scientific inquiry, theories about manufacturing variations demonstrating thinking that transcends mere accumulation. Why do you think that one is different? Aiko asks as they pause where Mrs. Chen tends chrysanthemums with the same careful attention Tommy devotes to his bottles. Manufacturing anomalies sometimes create unique characteristics, Tommy explains with scholarly seriousness. But this feels intentional, like someone wanted it to be special, maybe for quality control testing or research purposes. Tommy's bedroom-turned-museum welcomes our bottle with appropriate reverence. Shelves line walls with careful organization, each section dedicated to specific variants and arranged according to systems reflecting both aesthetic sensibility and scholarly methodology. Promotional posters hang in frames with the same care teachers give diplomas, while hand-lettered index cards document acquisition details and ongoing observations with professional thoroughness. Our bottle receives placement in the position of honor, reserved for most significant acquisitions, its unusual luminescence providing gentle illumination for the surrounding collection. Tommy's documentation process unfolds with methodical care as he records acquisition details in his composition notebook, creating records that transform personal collecting into informal archival practice. His sketches capture luminescence patterns with artistic skill, while written descriptions demonstrate vocabulary that would impress university researchers. Photography follows with technical precision, Tommy's camera capturing visual evidence of isotope variations and luminescence patterns, supplementing written observations. These images join hundreds of others in carefully labeled albums, documenting his growing collection and evolving understanding of manufacturing processes. Each photograph represents both artistic achievement and scientific record, creating visual archives preserving details often lost to casual observation. Evening brings Tommy's ritual inspection of his collection, quiet ceremony transforming bedroom into laboratory. He moves from shelf to shelf with practiced attention, noting any changes in luminescence patterns or physical condition that might indicate aging processes or environmental effects. Our bottle receives particular scrutiny, its unusual stability confirming his initial assessment of special characteristics, while its steady glow provides meditation focus for his systematic observations. At his desk, correspondence awaits response, postcards and letters from fellow collectors named Eli, Amina, and Raj, each with their own local corner stores and patient shopkeepers who save unusual bottles for careful hands. They met through hobby magazines and library terminals, where posts arrive slowly enough to feel like letters, trading photographs and theories about rare cap designs, misprints, and stories of manufacturing anomalies. Tommy writes about batch QU77S7 and the quality control stamp he discovered, offering his findings the way scientists share data, not claiming ownership but contributing to collective understanding. Through gentle questions posed during their bedtime conversation, Aiko learns about dreams extending far beyond collecting into professional aspirations. Tommy's goal of becoming a Nuka-Cola scientist reflects genuine passion for understanding the intersection of chemistry and consumer products. His theories about bottles holding special secrets, revealing imagination, grounded in systematic observation and logical thinking. Some bottles are just products, Tommy explains, as Aiko tucks him beside shelves, glowing with soft blue light. But others are like messages from the people who made them. This one feels like it's trying to tell me something important. As October deepens and autumn light takes on qualities speaking of approaching transformation, Tommy performs careful maintenance on his collection with ritualistic devotion. Our bottle receives gentle polishing with microfiber cloth, its surface cleaned to optimal clarity, while Tommy whispers theories about its unusual properties and speculation about careful hands that guided its creation. This final pre-war blessing, performed unknowingly by someone whose passion transforms consumer products into objects of scientific wonder, prepares our bottle for the great transformation approaching with winter's advance. Tommy's careful attention and systematic documentation create the last detailed record of our bottle's pre-war existence, preserving observations that will prove prophetic when future scholars seek to understand the intersection of human intention and atomic precision in the final days of the world that was. The bedroom settles into gentle quiet as Tommy's collection maintains its luminescent vigil, our bottle glowing steadily among companions representing months of dedicated collecting and careful stewardship. In the darkness, isotopes pulse with atomic rhythms, measuring time in ways no human clock can capture, preparing for changes that will transform everything while leaving the essential character of wonder intact, waiting for rediscovery by hands that understand the value of patient attention and systematic care. Night brings the longer experiment, as Tommy dims lights until only bottle glow draws the eye, setting his camera for timed exposure and measuring 3 minutes by counting breaths like a swimmer in calm water. The shutter closes with soft sound, capturing luminescence patterns that supplement his growing archive of visual evidence. Before sleep, he whispers, without meaning to, "Good night, sky," addressing not just our bottle, but the entire constellation of preserved light surrounding his dreams of scientific discovery and careful stewardship in a world where wonder still lives in glass and dedication, unaware that both will soon be tested by changes beyond any collector's imagination. The morning of October 23rd unfolds with Tommy's familiar ritual, his gentle movements around the collection, creating the soft sounds that our bottle has learned to associate with careful attention and devoted stewardship. Autumn light filters through bedroom windows with the same golden quality that has marked recent weeks, yet something whispers at the edge of perception, a subtle tension in the air that speaks of approaching transformation beyond any collector's imagination. Tommy's camera captures the morning luminescence patterns with practiced precision, his documentation continuing the careful record-keeping that has transformed his bedroom into an informal archive of wonder. Our bottle glows with steady radiance from its position of honor, the unusual isotope stability that caught May's experienced eye and Harold's collector's instincts, now providing consistent illumination for Tommy's scientific observations. The blue light pulses with atomic rhythm, measuring time in ways no human clock can capture, utterly unaware of the cosmic forces gathering beyond suburban tranquility. The change arrives first as brightness, not sound, not story told in voices, but an alteration of light so complete that it feels like a breath held too long by the entire neighborhood at once. White floods through the window and around curtain edges, a daylight that makes noon seem modest by comparison. For one eternal moment, our bottle's careful blue luminescence seems to disappear into this greater radiance, not dimmed or defeated, but absorbed into a wider sea of atomic fire, blooming with terrible beauty across the horizon. The flash transforms everything in an instant that stretches beyond measurement, light erupting with intensity that rewrites the fundamental rules governing shadow and illumination. Our bottle experiences this moment not as violence, but as recognition. The same atomic forces contained within its glass walls, suddenly unleashed on scales that dwarf human comprehension. Isotopes dancing with their cosmic siblings in patterns too vast for any single perspective to encompass. Then the world exhales. The house, resting on its concrete foundation, shivers gently the way old timbers do when heavy trucks pass. Only there is no truck, and the road has fallen silent. One framed poster on Tommy's wall tips, rights itself, tips again, and settles at a new angle. Somewhere in the distance, a cupboard door eases open. The hallway clock stops with its hands touching 9:42, and all the low hums that had stitched morning together. The refrigerator's purr, the water heater's soft vigilance, the faint transformer song from the street fade as if a curtain has been drawn across the entire neighborhood. On the shelf where our bottle sits among its carefully arranged siblings, that small tremor becomes a slow migration. Felt pads under bookends sigh across varnished wood as Tommy's collection leans into one another, like neighbors steadying themselves. Our bottle rolls a thumb's width, then another, until the barest tilt sends it toward the edge. The fall takes a lifetime, measured in heartbeats and fractions, May's protective tissue slowing its descent against a poster's face, while a folded t-shirt on the lower shelf receives the next part of the journey. The carpet accepts it finally, with a forgiving sigh, and the bottle spins once, twice, before finding the protective shadow beneath Tommy's bed, where wooden legs meet the world in quiet stability. Silence arrives and settles with weight and texture, not empty absence, but profound presence that speaks of fundamental change. Through this new quiet come unfamiliar sounds, tiny and uncertain at first. A flake of paint loosening from the windowsill to tap the floor like delayed rain. Radio in the kitchen searching through static before surrendering to permanent quiet. Tommy's science kit Geiger counter awakens into a slow metronome. Polite clicks every few seconds that grow more talkative as the day deepens, then calm again, as if tired from measuring invisible transformations. Days pass unmarked by human schedules, time revealing its other shapes as morning light comes paler, then warmer, then cool again, as weather moves through patterns unwitnessed by those who once tended gardens and swept sidewalks. Dust begins settling through broken windows, with archaeological patience, particles drifting through shafts of sunlight that now carry different qualities, filtered through atmospheric changes that speak of fundamental alterations in the relationship between earth and sky. Our bottle's blue glow now serves as tiny beacon in the growing darkness of the abandoned house, its steady luminescence providing the only consistent light source as electrical systems fail and batteries drain into permanent silence. The soft tick of distant radiation counters begins, as whisper barely distinguishable from settling dust, but grows more frequent as atomic particles drift through compromised windows like invisible snow, carrying signatures our bottle recognizes as distant relatives of the isotopes contained within its own structure. Seasons accumulate without human witness, spring rain finding new paths through compromised roofing, while autumn leaves drift through broken windows to carpet floors where feet once moved with purpose and care. Winter brings particular quiet, snow muffling even the subtle sounds of structural settling, while providing insulation that helps preserve the bedroom's careful organization. Our bottle observes these changes with the patience of glass and the endurance of atomic structure, understanding that its role has evolved from consumer product to historical witness, from collected object to keeper of memories. The house settles around our bottle like a protective shell, walls and roof creating sanctuary that preserves not just physical objects, but the accumulated care and attention they represent. Tommy's collection remains largely intact, shelves of bottles creating constellation of blue light that transforms the abandoned bedroom into shrine, dedicated to pre-war wonder and systematic curiosity. Wood speaks occasionally as temperatures change, boards lengthening and shrinking in tiny increments, while murmuring to one another in the language of joints and nails. Time begins moving differently in this new world, measured not in human schedules, but in the slow decay of isotopes and the gentle accumulation of seasons that pass without witness. Our bottle's luminescence provides steady chronometer marking atomic time, its blue glow pulsing with rhythms that connect it to cosmic forces operating on scales that dwarf human concerns, while remaining intimately connected to the careful attention once lavished by collectors, who understood that wonder lives in details. Changes gather in small ways that speak of profound transformation. A window stressed by new winds cracks in delicate lines that spread over days like ivy branches on glass, until gusts lift it free to settle in the yard in large, honest pieces. Air moves differently then, more freely, more often, carrying leaves into hallways where shoes once waited, and bringing the clean mineral scent that follows rain through altered plaster. The silence deepens with each passing season, acquiring texture and weight that speak of profound absence rather than temporary quiet. Yet within this silence, our bottle continues its atomic song, isotopes dancing with radioactive rhythm that connects it to larger patterns of change transforming the world beyond suburban boundaries. Its luminescence serves as meditation focus for the empty room, steady light maintaining vigil over memories preserved in carefully arranged displays and systematic documentation. Dust accumulates with geological patience, creating layers that will someday tell stories to those who understand how to read environmental records. Our bottle's surface collects particles that speak of distant fires and atmospheric changes, each mote representing evidence of transformation, occurring on scales that encompass entire civilizations, while leaving individual objects intact as witnesses to what was and what has become. The house dreams around our bottle, wooden frame and brick foundation settling into patterns that speak of deep rest rather than decay. Within this protective embrace, Tommy's collection maintains its luminescent vigil, each bottle representing not just manufacturing precision, but human dedication to understanding and preserving wonder wherever it appears. The blue glow that once caught Tommy's scientific curiosity and May's commercial attention now provides steady illumination for empty rooms, where memories rest like seeds waiting for proper conditions to sprout into new forms of recognition and care. Our bottle's radioactive luminescence has become part of a larger pattern of atomic change, its careful isotope stability now serving as beacon of consistency in a world learning to accommodate transformation as fundamental characteristic. The unusual properties that Dr. Sarah Morrison noted in her quality control documentation, that Harold photographed in his warehouse, that May arranged with careful attention, and that Tommy studied with scientific devotion, now serve a purpose none of them could have anticipated, providing steady light through the long transformation that will reshape everything except the essential character of wonder that lives in careful attention and systematic curiosity. Time stretches ahead with geological patience as our bottle settles into its new role as silent witness and faithful guardian, atomic structure maintaining perfect stability, while the world beyond these walls learns to accommodate changes that will define the next chapter of human history. The blue pulse continues its steady rhythm, a lighthouse the size of a hand, calling no ship but defining distance just the same, waiting for the moment when careful hands will once again recognize its significance and guide it toward its destined role in preserving the light of human curiosity across the vast darkness of transformation and change. 20 years pass like seasons breathing through the abandoned house, each cycle of rain and snow adding layers to the archaeological record that dust creates with patient precision. Our bottle maintains its steady vigil beneath Tommy's bed, isotopes pulsing with atomic consistency that measures decades in heartbeats too small for human perception. The blue glow has never wavered, its unusual stability creating a tiny lighthouse in the growing darkness of the abandoned bedroom, waiting for eyes trained to recognize significance hiding within apparent abandonment. The sound arrives first as careful footsteps on broken concrete, the measured placement of boots that speaks of someone who has learned to read the wasteland's hidden languages without disturbing their quiet conversations. Maria Santos approaches the house with the methodical attention of an archaeologist who understands that every object tells a story, her movements carrying the deliberate grace of someone who has transformed necessity into scholarly discipline over 2 decades of patient exploration. She pauses at the threshold, her trained eye reading the structural damage that 20 years of weather have written across door frames and window casings. The house speaks to her in the vocabulary of materials science, wood grain revealing moisture patterns, paint oxidation, telling stories about atmospheric changes, the slow chemistry of abandonment creating its own careful records. Her Geiger counter maintains its quiet conversation with invisible particles, clicks spaced with reassuring regularity that confirms manageable radiation levels rather than dangerous concentrations. Maria enters with reverence appropriate to sacred spaces, understanding that homes preserve memories more effectively than monuments. The hallway retains traces of careful maintenance, family photographs still hanging at angles that suggest sudden departure rather than gradual decay. Her leather satchel bears the careful wear of constant use, its contents representing tools that bridge pre-war scientific training with post-war survival wisdom developed through years of methodical exploration. Tommy's bedroom door stands slightly ajar, afternoon light filtering through compromised windows to illuminate dust motes dancing in golden columns, like tiny spirits maintaining their own patient vigil. Maria's first glimpse reveals the careful organization that has survived 2 decades of abandonment. Shelves of bottles creating constellation of blue light that transforms utilitarian space into shrine dedicated to systematic curiosity. Her breath catches with recognition of kindred spirit, separated by catastrophe, but united by shared passion for understanding wonder wherever it appears. The Geiger counter's clicks increase slightly as she crosses the threshold, not alarming, but noteworthy to someone whose survival depends on reading atomic signatures with scientific precision. Maria approaches the collection with movements that balance scholarly excitement with respectful caution, understanding that she stands in the presence of someone who shared her dedication to careful observation and systematic documentation. Tommy's notebooks lie scattered where they fell during the Great Transformation, pages open to reveal sketches and observations that would impress university researchers. Maria reads with growing amazement, recognizing scientific methodology that transcends age and formal training. Curiosity expressed through careful record-keeping that preserves details often lost to casual observation. The handwriting speaks of patience and dedication, theories about manufacturing variations demonstrating thinking that extends beyond mere collecting into genuine inquiry. A corner of cloth has slipped near the second shelf, and beneath it, on the carpet, a path of disturbed dust tells a short, quiet story. Something fell. Something rolled. The bed received it. Maria kneels with practiced ease and looks into the gentle darkness beneath the frame, where lost things live in patient waiting. Blue answers her gaze from that protective shadow, steady, not insistent, the kind of light that endures rather than demands attention. "Hello," she says softly, because she has learned that courtesy helps her hands remember gentleness. Her reach is gloved and measured, the way she once lifted beakers from laboratory hot plates in another lifetime. The bottle slides toward her palm with a small whispers of felt against wood, its glass cool despite the atomic fire contained within its walls. The Geiger counter notes the change as she brings it into open air. No spike, only a rise that fits within curves she knows well from other quantums. Yet something about the stability of the clicks, the even spacing between them, draws attention to an observation already forming in her trained mind. She sits back on her heels and lets the bottle rest against her knee, while opening her field journal, pages already thick with years of careful documentation. Child's collection, exceptional preservation, she writes, noting coordinates environmental conditions, and contextual details. The batch code receives special attention. QU77S7, the same notation that caught Tommy's scientific curiosity decades earlier. Her sketch captures the luminescence pattern with artistic precision, while written observations demonstrate vocabulary that bridges chemistry education with wasteland archaeology. Luminescence plateau. Decay profile suggests higher purity isotope lot, not drift. Intentional. She circles the word and leaves space beside it, understanding that some questions require accumulated evidence rather than immediate answers. Her camera emerges from the satchel, battered but loyal, its leather cracked and corners held by careful tape. Film is precious, so she frames with thought. The bed's ledge and dust trail, the shelf's context, the blue glow against her glove's weave. She waits for light to settle, then captures the moment with the modest shutter of preserved time. 3 images, context, detail, and character, each serving different aspects of documentation that transforms discovery into historical record. On the desk, Tommy's composition notebook lies beneath patient dust. Maria uses a soft brush to reveal the cover, then opens to the last used page with fingertips that respect fragile paper. The handwriting is young and serious, observations dated with care that echoes her own methodology. One line stops her breath. QU77S7, luminescence stability, 15% above standard. Isotope concentration possibly anomalous. She reads it twice, understanding that decades have just collapsed into a moment of recognition between scientific minds separated by catastrophe, but united by careful attention to detail. She photographs the page, rather than disturbing its rest, crediting the observation in her own journal. Tommy N., pre-war youth collector. The notation represents more than documentation. It acknowledges intellectual kinship across the vast divide of transformation, recognizing that curiosity and systematic thinking survive even when the world that nurtured them does not. Maria's pre-war life as a chemistry teacher reveals itself through her approach to Tommy's artifacts, recognition of shared passion creating bridge across decades and catastrophe. Her own childhood fascination with scientific instruments and natural specimens evolved through professional training into systematic approach to understanding how objects reveal cultural values and individual dedication. The Wasteland has transformed her collecting from hobby into survival skill, ability to read material culture, providing advantages that extend beyond mere scavenging into scholarly reconstruction of lost knowledge. From her pack, she produces clean cloth and creates a protective cradle with practiced folds, understanding that preservation requires as much care as discovery. The bottle settles into this soft architecture as if made for such protection, its unusual luminescence continuing to pulse with steady rhythm that speaks of atomic precision rather than random decay. She tags the bundle with careful notation, house number, room location, radiological readings, creating records that future researchers will depend upon for context and verification. Her offering emerges from understanding that discovery creates responsibility toward those who came before. A small origami crane, folded from clean paper, finds place among Tommy's collection, where it will serve as acknowledgement of his dedication and marker of respectful passage. The gesture transforms salvage into ceremony, recognizing that objects carry memories deserving honor rather than mere appropriation. "Thank you for keeping them safe," she whispers to Tommy's memory, understanding that the bedroom's preserved organization represents more than structural accident. The careful arrangement speaks of someone who understood that wonder requires systematic attention, and that preservation serves purposes extending beyond individual satisfaction into collective wisdom. Before leaving, she adds the room to her field catalogue as more than number. Homes of Collectors receives entry 9. Classification: Child Scholar. Themes: precision, care, community context. She glances toward the door, as if May might be visible beyond the street, recognizing networks of care that once connected collectors across vast distances through shared passion and mutual support. Outside, she marks the house with simple chalk symbol, circle with dot, the scholar scavenger's quiet sign for documented leave intact. Down the street, a fence post holds loose board, where messages rest for those who keep careful caravans, part of communication network that maintains scholarly community across wasteland distances. Network connections emerge through her documentation, photographs and observations destined for fellow scholar scavengers who share her commitment to preserving memory through systematic exploration. Maria's correspondence with researchers across the wasteland creates informal academic community dedicated to understanding what the old world preserved and what preservation patterns reveal about priorities and values that shaped pre-war civilization. Her growing theory whispers at the edge of consciousness as she secures our bottle for travel. Certain pre-war objects might hold keys to understanding the old world's final days. The unusual isotope signatures she has documented across multiple sites suggest systematic quality control investigations, evidence of individuals who recognized problems and attempted to preserve warnings for future discovery. Our bottle's properties fit patterns that speak of intentional documentation rather than accidental preservation. As evening light begins its familiar shift toward dusk, Maria prepares for the next phase of our bottle's journey. Her pack settles comfortably across shoulders that have carried countless discoveries toward destinations, where careful hands wait to continue the long work of preservation and understanding. The blue glow emanates softly through protective wrapping, no longer abandoned relic, but treasured discovery, destined for scholarly networks that understand how individual objects carry collective memory across centuries of change. The house settles back into its patient vigil as Maria's footsteps fade into wasteland quiet, our bottle beginning another transition in its extraordinary journey from consumer product to historical evidence. The unusual luminescence continues its steady pulse, atomic heartbeat measuring time in ways that connect careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying forward not just isotopic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who recognized its quiet significance and chose to preserve rather than merely possess. Somewhere ahead, trusted traders follow routes mapped by mutual recognition rather than corporate schedules, their caravans serving as arteries for academic community that spans the transformed continent. Our bottle travels toward these careful networks, its blue glow serving as beacon that connects Tommy's pre-war curiosity to Maria's post-war scholarship. Isotope stability carrying evidence of human conscience embedded within consumer products by those who chose truth over convenience in the final days of the world that was. The crossroads emerges from afternoon haze as a place where old highway markers still point toward destinations that exist now only in memory, their weathered signs creating landmarks for those who navigate by different stars. Maria's careful steps lead through scrub grass toward the familiar sight of a trader's camp, canvas-covered wagons arranged with defensive precision, while pack Brahmin graze with bovine contentment in the protected center, their massive forms creating islands of stability in the restless landscape. Ezra Blackwood approaches with the measured gait of someone whose life moves at Brahmin pace, understanding that patience creates more reliable progress than haste ever could. His weathered hands accept Maria's documentation with reverence born from recognizing scholarly work regardless of its informal presentation. Reading her field notes with appreciation that bridges the gap between academic training and wasteland necessity. The exchange unfolds through quiet negotiation that transforms commercial transaction into collaborative preservation effort. Museum piece, he observes, studying our bottle through its protective wrapping, while his own Geiger counter provides gentle commentary on atomic signatures. Pre-war quality control based on the isotope stability. Someone took extraordinary care with this particular batch. His caravan operates with rhythms inherited from pre-war mail routes, connecting isolated communities through networks built on accumulated trust rather than corporate infrastructure. Pack Brahmin respond to his morning attention with docile acceptance, earned through years of consistent care, understanding that his gentle hands, checking hooves, and examining harnesses represent partnership rather than mere utility. The massive creatures settle into loading procedures with patient cooperation that makes wasteland commerce possible across vast distances and unforgiving terrain. Easy, Lark, he murmurs to the lead Brahmin while adjusting pack straps with museum-trained precision. Huckle, hold steady now. His voice carries the same careful attention that once used when handling delicate artifacts in climate-controlled galleries. Professional training adapted to post-war realities through necessity and dedication to preserving whatever fragments of knowledge survive in transportable form. Our bottle finds sanctuary within Ezra's specially designed archive compartment, padded with salvaged seat foam and lined with archival tissue that speaks to his understanding of proper preservation techniques. The container represents more than storage. It serves as mobile museum where fragile objects travel safely between communities that lack resources for permanent preservation facilities. Each valuable item receives individual wrapping and careful placement among companions, representing decades of systematic collecting. The inventory organization reflects methodical training, adapted to mobile requirements, ledgers documenting not just commercial value, but historical significance of objects passing through his care. His notation system bridges pre-war museum practices with post-war practical needs, creating records that transform trade routes into informal archives, preserving knowledge about material culture and community development across the transformed landscape. Blackwood, Archive, Accession, QU 77S7. He writes in careful script while securing our bottle's protective bundle. Luminescence plateau confirmed. Cross-reference with anomalous quantum variants documented in Western territories. Possible quality control documentation rather than standard consumer product. Navigation proceeds through maps marked in his careful handwriting. Routes documented through years of patient exploration and community building. The cartography reflects more than geographical knowledge. Settlements marked with notes about leadership styles, resource availability, and cultural characteristics that help visiting traders understand local customs and avoid misunderstandings that could damage carefully built relationships spanning decades of mutual cooperation. Settlement negotiations throughout the day reveal Ezra's particular gift for finding common ground between suspicious communities. His ability to serve as neutral intermediary, creating bridges across territorial boundaries and cultural differences. Leaders who might view other strangers with warranted caution welcome his arrival, because experience has taught them that his word carries weight, and his inventory includes items genuinely useful rather than merely profitable. Canterbury Commons needs medical supplies, he explains during afternoon discussions with a Riverbend representative. They've got surplus ammunition and skilled metalwork. Riverbend's looking for both. Sometimes the best trade routes connect 3 communities instead of 2, creating networks that strengthen everyone involved. His practice of sharing news and stories alongside goods transforms commercial visits into cultural exchanges that maintain communication networks across vast distances. Ezra serves as informal historian, carrying information about weather patterns, resource discoveries, and community developments that help isolated settlements make informed decisions about survival strategies and cooperative opportunities that extend beyond immediate needs. Evening brings the ritual that defines Ezra's deeper purpose as he establishes camp, where cottonwood trees create natural windbreak and Brahmin can graze on sweet grass growing near seasonal streams. The fire builds slowly from carefully selected wood, while his kettle settles at the flame's edge, steam rising to join the evening's insect choir in gentle symphony that speaks of temporary domesticity imposed on wilderness through patient routine. His journal emerges with the same inevitability that brought the kettle. Habit shaped into ritual, because ritual makes solitary days rhyme with meaning, larger than mere survival. Our bottle receives unwrapping ceremony as firelight creates dancing patterns across its surface, the unusual luminescence engaging in conversation with flames without competing for attention. The blue glow remains steadier than fire, and this stability captures his scholarly interest. Memory anchors, he explains to the evening air, while documenting luminescence patterns with instruments salvaged from university laboratories. Certain objects ask to be more than things. They catch light in ways that pull stories toward them and keep those stories like embers, connecting what was to what might be again. The theory reflects years of observation about how communities relate to pre-war artifacts, understanding that objects function as more than mere tools or curiosities. The most successful settlements, he has noticed, maintain careful relationships with their material inheritance, preserving useful knowledge while adapting technologies to current realities, honoring the past without becoming trapped by nostalgia for systems that no longer serve practical needs. His documentation captures more than scientific data as he records batch codes, luminescence characteristics, and theoretical connections to other anomalous quantum variants discovered across the Wasteland. The notes represent intersection of commerce and scholarship, understanding that patterns emerge only through systematic comparison of seemingly isolated discoveries made by careful observers, separated by vast distances and accumulated time. QU 77 and 7 maintains consistent output against variable environmental conditions, he writes. Luminescence decay profile suggests intentional isotope concentration rather than manufacturing accident. Cross-reference with Maria Santos field documentation and Tomi Nakamura pre-war observations. Pattern analysis indicates possible quality control investigation preserved in consumer products. The notation joins hundreds of similar observations in journals that document trade routes with scholarly thoroughness, creating records that future historians might someday use to understand how knowledge and culture moved through post-war America. Ezra's documentation represents more than commercial record-keeping. It preserves evidence of human networks maintaining civilization through systematic attention to detail and mutual cooperation across seemingly impossible distances. When stars find their particular places in clear sky, unmarked by pre-war light pollution, Ezra completes his domestic routine with movements that carry unconscious grace, developed through decades of caring for fragile objects during long journeys. Our bottle receives final inspection before returning to its protective nest, checking for any changes that might indicate environmental stress or isotopic instability requiring adjusted handling procedures. "Sleep well, little mystery," he whispers, while securing the archive compartment with ribbon that keeps bundles from opening when wheels meet ruts. The gesture transforms commercial transport into cultural preservation, recognizing that objects deserve respect for the human attention they represent, as much as their intrinsic properties or historical significance. The trade route stretches ahead through landscape that speaks of transformation and adaptation, communities connected by networks of trust and mutual benefit that Ezra helps maintain through patient travel and fair dealing. His maps show destinations marked not just with geographical features, but with cultural landmarks, settlements where scholars gather, communities that preserve technical knowledge, locations where unusual artifacts have been discovered and documented by those who understand their significance. Tomorrow will bring Riverbend, where Dr. Patricia Chen maintains modest archive facilities in repurposed vault space, creating sanctuary for objects that serve as teachers rather than mere curiosities. Our bottle travels within this network of care and scholarship, its unusual properties carrying forward evidence of pre-war conscience embedded within consumer products by those who chose truth over convenience in the final days of the world that was. The steady pulse of isotope decay measures time with precision that connects careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, each atomic heartbeat representing intersection of human intention and cosmic forces. Ezra's careful handling and scholarly attention ensure that this journey continues with dignity, appropriate to objects that serve as bridges between what was and what might yet become, through patient dedication to truth and systematic care across the vast darkness of transformation and change. In the protective darkness of the archive compartment, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil among companions representing decades of careful collecting and scholarly preservation. The blue glow emanates steadily through layers of protective cloth, carrying forward not just atomic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who have recognized its quiet significance and chosen to preserve rather than merely possess, moving toward communities that understand the value of systematic inquiry and cooperative preservation in building bridges across the transformed world. Morning finds the caravan rolling along the river's gentle curve, wheels answering ruts worn smooth by seasons of careful passage, the Brahmin content in their harness as familiar territory unfolds before them. Ezra hums a tune that knows only a few notes, the kind that keeps time without asking for attention, while ahead, Riverbend gathers itself from fields and orchards where neat rows of corn and beans turn the floodplain into a careful checkerboard of sustainable abundance. Dr. Patricia Chen waits at the settlement's entry garden, with soil on her gloves and a notebook tucked beneath her arm, her greeting to Ezra carrying the warmth of long-established professional respect. She represents the sort of leader who glances once and sees systems, water flow, crop rotation, the way a community's knowledge moves through daily routines, like nutrients through carefully tended soil. The morning air carries the clean scent of damp earth and growing things, windmills stitching the sky with steady circles that speak of appropriate technology adapted to post-war realities. The quantum variant Maria documented, Dr. Chen asks, studying our bottle through its protective wrapping, while her radiation detector provides gentle confirmation of stable isotope signatures. Ezra mentioned anomalous luminescence characteristics in his message. We've been tracking similar patterns, evidence of systematic quality control investigations that someone wanted preserved. The exchange unfolds with practiced efficiency, as Ezra presents our bottle not as mere trade goods, but as historical evidence requiring scholarly attention. Dr. Chen's trained eye recognizes the same unusual properties that caught Tommy's scientific curiosity and Maria's archaeological interest, understanding that patterns emerge only through systematic comparison of discoveries made by careful observers across vast distances and accumulated time. Riverbend spreads around them with organic organization that speaks of thoughtful planning adapted to natural landscape features. Former suburbanites have created agricultural community built on principles of shared knowledge and mutual aid, understanding that survival requires cooperation, extending beyond individual households into systematic approaches to resource management and collective decision-making. Gardens flow into workshops, workshops into meeting spaces, creating integrated environment where learning happens through daily practice rather than formal instruction. The settlement's archive occupies a converted vault space where climate control maintains stable conditions for fragile materials, transformed by intention into a gentle laboratory where pre-war artifacts serve as teaching tools rather than mere curiosities. Dr. Chen arranges our bottle among companions that represent decades of careful collecting, salvaged technical manuals, preserved instruments, children's drawings that capture wonder in simple lines. The space hums not with machinery, but with use, shelves built from repurposed materials holding objects spaced like commas in an ongoing conversation between past and present. Our bottle takes its place on a waist-high shelf, where its blue glow softens the edges of educational materials, providing gentle illumination for evening study sessions and quiet contemplation. The unusual luminescence creates natural gathering point, where technical explanations merge with philosophical questions about how societies balance innovation with safety, progress with sustainability, individual needs with collective welfare. This particular batch shows isotope concentration that exceeds standard manufacturing parameters, Dr. Chen explains to gathered residents during the morning circle, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who understands that patience transforms information into wisdom. Someone at the factory appears to have deliberately created evidence of quality control concerns, preserving warnings in consumer products for future discovery. The morning meeting unfolds in the community garden, where raised beds demonstrate principles developed through patient experimentation and careful observation. Settlement members share daily observations about soil health and weather patterns, while children move through discussions with natural curiosity encouraged rather than suppressed, their questions revealing how learning happens when formal education adapts to community needs rather than institutional requirements. Riverbend's practice of object meditation emerges during quiet evening hours, when residents gather around significant artifacts for contemplative examination that bridges scientific inquiry with philosophical reflection. Our bottle serves as focus for these sessions, its atomic properties creating natural connection between pre-war technological achievement and post-war ethical questions about responsible innovation and community stewardship. Objects carry intentions, reflects Marcus Webb during one such gathering, his pre-war library experience informing observations about how material culture preserves values alongside practical knowledge. This bottle represents someone who chose conscience over convenience, preserving evidence that speaks across decades about individual responsibility in the face of institutional pressure. Dr. Chen's documentation process unfolds with methodical precision as she records not just physical properties, but provenance and the accumulated observations of previous caretakers. Her correspondence with other settlements creates expanding network of scientific inquiry, connecting isolated communities through shared commitment to understanding rather than mere survival. Letters documenting unusual radiation signatures and social innovations with scholarly thoroughness. Through gentle interactions between residents and visiting traders, our bottle serves as conversation starter that connects immediate practical concerns with larger questions about how communities balance openness with security, preservation with accessibility. The discussions reveal sophisticated understanding of systems thinking that emerges when survival depends on cooperation rather than competition, collaboration rather than accumulation. However, beneath Riverbend's peaceful rhythms, subtle tensions begin emerging as scout reports document organized groups moving through territories previously considered safe. The presence of systematic raider activity forces difficult conversations about security versus scholarly openness. Understanding that accumulated knowledge serves communities best when accessible, yet requires protection from those who would destroy rather than preserve. Dr. Chen faces increasingly difficult decisions about balancing community safety with commitment to preserving knowledge for future generations. The archive represents decades of careful collecting and systematic documentation, yet its accessibility makes it vulnerable to those who view accumulated knowledge as commodity rather than cultural heritage, deserving protection and respectful stewardship. We might need to relocate our most valuable artifacts, she confides during evening planning sessions, her gaze often falling upon our bottle's steady luminescence. The university vault offers better security, but isolation reduces educational access. We're balancing immediate protection against long-term preservation goals. The conversation reveals fundamental tensions between security and scholarship. Recognition that knowledge preservation requires difficult choices about accessibility and protection. Our bottle's journey reflects these larger questions about how societies balance cooperation with caution in building sustainable communities that honor both past achievements and future possibilities. As autumn deepens and security concerns intensify, Riverbend prepares for another transition in our bottle's extraordinary journey. The settlement's children gather for final observations before its departure, their questions revealing how wonder persists across generations when properly nurtured through patient attention and systematic curiosity. Young voices contribute theories about isotope behavior with scientific accuracy that demonstrates how learning flourishes when communities commit to preserving knowledge rather than merely accumulating resources. The decision crystallizes with pragmatic care. Their most precious artifacts, those with unique research potential or irreplaceable historical significance, must move toward deeper security, where collaborative research can continue under better protection. Our bottle, with its steady glow and accumulated documentation, represents both the necessity of this choice and the hope that knowledge will continue flowing between communities dedicated to understanding rather than mere survival. Evening settles over Riverbend, with the gentle sounds of a community at peace with difficult decisions made from wisdom rather than fear. In the archive, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil among companions representing months of careful stewardship and systematic attention, its blue glow serving as meditation focus for the quiet work of preservation that connects past achievements to future possibilities through patient dedication and collaborative care. Tomorrow will bring careful packing and protective transport as our bottle continues toward more secure facilities where scholarly networks maintain their patient work of understanding and preservation. The unusual luminescence carries forward not just atomic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who have recognized its quiet significance, moving toward communities that understand how individual objects serve as bridges between what was and what might yet become through dedicated stewardship and systematic care across the vast transformation of the world. The caravan's wheels find familiar grooves in the approach to Vault 114, autumn light filtering through bare branches as the Brahmins settle into their practiced rhythm. The vault entrance reveals itself gradually through Marcus Webb's careful engineering, not the harsh military architecture of its original purpose, but something transformed by scholarly intention into sanctuary. The heavy doors respond to his touch with mechanical precision that speaks of maintenance performed with ritualistic devotion, steel and concrete now serving purposes their designers never anticipated. Marcus emerges to greet Dr. Chen's courier with the measured movements of someone whose life has been spent handling fragile things. His hands, weathered by years of underground work, yet retaining the gentle precision of his pre-war library training, accept our bottle's protective bundle with reverence appropriate to significant acquisitions. The exchange unfolds with ceremony that transforms commercial transaction into collaborative preservation effort, understanding that objects arriving here represent cultural heritage, requiring protection extending far beyond individual ownership. Batch QU77S7. He reads from the accompanying documentation, while his radiation detector provides gentle confirmation of stable isotope signatures. Dr. Chen mentions anomalous luminescence characteristics with possible research significance. We've been expecting this particular specimen. The descent into Vault 114 carries our bottle through layers of protection that speak to accumulated wisdom about preserving knowledge in unstable times. Fluorescent lighting provides steady illumination without heat fluctuations that threaten fragile materials, while air circulation systems maintain atmospheric conditions with scientific precision adapted to underground limitations. The sterile corridors have been transformed by Marcus's vision into climate-controlled archive spaces, where temperature and humidity receive constant monitoring through salvaged environmental systems. Our bottle finds placement within the consumer goods collection, joining hundreds of companions representing systematic effort to reconstruct American material culture through careful preservation and scholarly analysis. Each shelf reflects organizational principles that bridge pre-war library science with post-war research needs, creating accessible archives where patterns emerge through comparative study rather than isolated examination. The arrangement speaks to Marcus's understanding that knowledge grows through connection rather than accumulation. The cataloging process unfolds with methodical precision as Marcus creates comprehensive records that transform objects into research tools through detailed documentation. His movements carry professional grace adapted from manuscript handling to artifact preservation, each gesture reflecting years of training that understands how proper care extends an object's ability to teach future generations. The ledger receives careful notation in script that will remain legible decades hence. Accession V114-CG-0847, he writes, while photographing our bottle from multiple angles. Pre-war Nuka-Cola Quantum variant with isotope concentration exceeding manufacturing specifications by approximately 15%. Cross-reference with similar anomalies, documented through Santos Archaeological Survey, Blackwood Trade documentation, and Riverbend analysis. The vault's daily routines reflect institutional memory adapted to post-war realities, maintenance checks performed with precision that ensures environmental systems continue protecting irreplaceable collections. Marcus moves through these responsibilities with practiced efficiency, understanding that consistent attention to mechanical details preserves scholarly resources, serving communities across vast distances through collaborative research and knowledge sharing. Each task connects to larger purposes, extending beyond immediate necessity. Visiting researchers arrive through carefully arranged schedules that balance security requirements with academic accessibility, their presence transforming underground isolation into intellectual gathering place where different communities contribute specialized knowledge to collective understanding. The archive serves as neutral ground where territorial disputes dissolve into shared commitment to learning, scholars from competing settlements collaborating on historical reconstruction through mutual respect for evidence and systematic methodology. Dr. Chen's preliminary analysis finds confirmation through the vault's more sophisticated equipment, salvaged spectrometers revealing isotope signatures that match patterns documented across multiple regions and time periods. The readings suggest systematic, rather than accidental, anomalies, evidence accumulating toward understanding that transcends individual artifacts or community boundaries. Marcus cross-references these findings with observations from other unusual quantum variants, pulling documentation from his carefully maintained files. The concentration profile appears consistent with samples archived from Denver, Sacramento, and Atlanta territories. He explains, while adjusting instruments with practiced precision. Someone appears to have deliberately created evidence trails across multiple production facilities, preserving information in consumer products through systematic quality control manipulation. The revelation transforms individual curiosity into collaborative investigation, as researchers contribute specialized knowledge to emerging pattern recognition. Our bottle's unusual properties serve as confirmation of theoretical frameworks developed through years of patient comparison between seemingly isolated discoveries, understanding that meaning emerges through systematic attention to accumulated evidence rather than intuitive leaps. Marcus's evening rounds reflect curatorial training adapted to underground realities, his footsteps echoing through corridors where archived knowledge rests under protection, ensuring future generations inherit accumulated wisdom rather than repeated ignorance. The practice transforms routine security checks into meditation on responsibility, understanding that preservation serves purposes extending far beyond immediate practical needs into cultural continuity across vast transformations. Our bottle's blue glow provides gentle illumination for these contemplative walks, its steady luminescence serving as beacon connecting careful manufacturing to systematic documentation through decades of patient stewardship. The unusual isotope stability represents more than technical achievement. It embodies human conscience preserved in consumer products by individuals who chose truth over convenience in circumstances requiring extraordinary courage. In the reading room, correspondence awaits response from fellow scholar archivists maintaining similar facilities across the continent. Letters document discoveries and theoretical developments that transform isolated research into collaborative investigation, creating informal academic community dedicated to understanding rather than mere survival. Marcus maintains these connections through patient correspondence that bridges vast distances with shared commitment to systematic inquiry. The vault's role as meeting ground facilitates conversations that bridge academic disciplines and community specializations, scholars sharing methodologies developed through necessity and adapted to post-war limitations. These discussions reveal sophisticated understanding of how material culture preserves social values alongside technical knowledge. objects serving as teachers, connecting past achievements to future possibilities through careful interpretation and respectful stewardship. Through Marcus's cross-referencing with other artifacts, patterns emerge suggesting intentional preservation efforts, extending beyond individual conscience into coordinated documentation campaigns. The growing collection of anomalous variants represents evidence of systematic quality control investigations, individuals working within corporate structures to preserve warnings for future discovery through careful manipulation of manufacturing processes. As winter settles over the surface world, our bottle rests in climate-controlled security while contributing to investigations spanning decades and connecting communities across vast distances. The unusual luminescence continues its steady pulse, atomic heartbeat measuring time with precision that bridges careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying forward evidence of human conscience embedded within consumer products by those who understood that truth requires preservation across whatever transformations the future might bring. The vault hums with quiet activity as researchers work through accumulated evidence, understanding that patterns emerge only through patient comparison of discoveries made by careful observers separated by geography and time. Our bottle's role in this larger mystery grows clearer with each cross-reference and theoretical connection, its anomalous properties serving as confirmation of systematic efforts to preserve warnings in forms that would survive corporate suppression and catastrophic change. In the protective darkness of underground archives, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil among companions representing decades of scholarly dedication and collaborative preservation. The blue glow emanates steadily through controlled atmosphere, carrying forward not just atomic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who have recognized its quiet significance and chosen to preserve rather than merely possess, waiting patiently for the next phase of investigation that will reveal deeper truths about individual conscience and collective responsibility in the final days of the world that was. The mystery deepens with each documented connection, evidence accumulating toward understanding that certain pre-war objects serve as bridges between past warnings and future wisdom, preserved by individuals who chose courage over convenience, in embedding truth within systems designed to obscure it. Our bottle carries this legacy forward through patient stewardship and systematic investigation, its unusual properties serving as key to unlocking larger patterns of intentional preservation that connect individual conscience to collective memory across the vast transformation of human civilization. Winter brings unexpected visitors to Vault 114, as radio transmissions coordinate arrivals through networks that span the continent with scholarly precision. The heavy doors respond to Marcus Webb's touch with their familiar, mechanical contentment, steel and concrete embracing the surface world's cold, before sealing it away with atmospheric whispers that speak of controlled environments and preserved knowledge. Dr. Elena Vasquez emerges from the harsh glare of surface light, carrying equipment cases that tell stories of careful preservation through decades of patient transport. Her movements carry the focused energy of someone accustomed to precision, each gesture reflecting years of training, adapted to post-war realities, where sophisticated analysis requires both technical expertise and practical wisdom about maintaining delicate instruments across vast distances and unforgiving terrain. The isotope patterns you've documented match theoretical frameworks we've been developing at the Western Research Collective, Elena explains, while unpacking analytical instruments salvaged from university laboratories and maintained through decades of careful stewardship. Her spectrometer settles onto reinforced tables with mechanical precision, its calibrated sensors preparing to read atomic signatures with accuracy that reveals patterns invisible to less sensitive detection methods. Marcus observes with scholarly excitement as professional-grade analysis becomes available to their collaborative investigation, understanding that Elena's equipment transforms the Vault's consumer goods archive into temporary laboratory, where sophisticated examination capabilities extend far beyond field measurements. The partnership unfolds with natural ease, two minds each bringing specialized knowledge to shared puzzles that require both technical precision and historical interpretation. Our bottle receives examination with scientific thoroughness, as Elena's instruments probe isotope concentrations with unprecedented precision, confirming the manufacturing anomaly first noted by Harold's collector instincts and Tommy's systematic observations decades earlier. The spectrometers laser traces invisible patterns across glass surfaces, revealing molecular architecture and precise distribution of strontium-90 isotopes through data streams that transform raw numbers into intricate graphs, speaking languages only trained eyes can interpret. This plateau isn't environmental, Elena observes after the third analytical run, her voice carrying quiet satisfaction of confirmation rather than excitement. It's baked in. Purity and proportion at the moment of manufacture, not drift picked up on a shelf or under a bed. She tilts the printout toward Marcus, pointing not to the peak but to the shoulder that maintains its shape in every pass. You can fake a lot with shielding and time, but not this particular posture. The research process unfolds with methodical thoroughness as they move between object and record, letting one inform the other with patient cross-referencing that reveals connections between seemingly isolated discoveries. Marcus contributes salvaged factory records while Elena's detective work traces serial numbers through corporate documentation preserved in archives across the Wasteland. Fragments of pre-war production logs, creating maps that connect individual artifacts to systematic patterns. Serial numbers and batch codes follow like coordinates on familiar maps, QU77S7, revealing significance beyond mere manufacturing designation. S7 isn't shipping, Elena murmurs, while tracing patterns with careful pencil marks. It's a station designation. Some plants labeled their isotope injector lines by station rather than by operator. Marcus retrieves factory schematics recovered from flooded offices, pages stiff from drying, and time revealing small, almost apologetic notation. Station 7. QC injection oversight. The room adjusts its breathing as discovery settles rather than leaps. Elena turns through corporate memos where nothing is said directly, yet margins reveal persistent habits, asterisks, small and precise, recurring near values that fail to match policy without triggering alarms. The asterisk appears again in photocopied logs that Harold Wicksher once mailed to hobbyist newsletters, images Marcus filed because they felt significant. Small stars in ink connecting to small stars preserved in glass. He saw it, Elena says softly, while studying Tommy's careful handwriting, the Vault's accustomed quiet seeming to agree with her observation. Comparison broadens understanding as Marcus retrieves additional quantum variants from distant archives. Denver's pale lilac anomaly, with faintly different decay curves. Atlanta specimens, whose ordinary appearance disguises unusual signatures, revealed only through sophisticated analysis. Elena runs identical tests without shortcuts, maintaining same intervals and environmental controls, while graphs emerge bearing telltale shoulders, consistent refusal to decay, like consumer products designed solely for appeal. What you have, Elena explains as afternoon deepens into the Vault's measured evening, is not accident layered upon accident. It's handwriting. Somebody inside the system wrote to the future in a language the system could not erase. The revelation transforms understanding, as Elena's work reveals systematic quality control investigation conducted by someone working within corporate structures to preserve evidence of safety violations. Personnel records, preserved through patient archival efforts, reveal Dr. Sarah Morrison's repeated appearance in factory documentation, her inspection notations corresponding precisely with isotope anomalies documented across 17 different production facilities, representing months of careful evidence preservation. Dr. Morrison appears to have recognized systematic safety violations and chose to preserve evidence within consumer products rather than relying on corporate documentation that could be destroyed or suppressed. Elena explains during evening seminars, where researchers share findings with visiting community representatives. These bottles serve as time capsules, containing warnings embedded by someone who understood that truth requires preservation across whatever transformations the future might bring. Her patient explanations reveal how individual objects carry collective memory across centuries, understanding that material culture preserves social values alongside technical specifications, while exploring broader questions about pre-war society's relationship with technology and safety. The discussion demonstrates sophisticated understanding of how corporate structures influenced individual decision-making and ethical responsibility in industrial contexts, where conscience required creative preservation methods. Through gentle collaboration with Marcus Webb, their shared excitement at uncovering connections between seemingly random artifacts transforms routine archival work into detective investigation, revealing patterns extending across decades and continental distances. The partnership demonstrates how scholarly cooperation amplifies individual expertise through systematic sharing of specialized knowledge and complementary methodologies developed through necessity and adapted to post-war limitations. When researchers from settlements ask for explanations, they will carry back to their communities. Elena speaks slowly, the way she does when complex concepts must settle into practical understanding. Think of it like a trellis, she suggests, aware of soil under their fingernails and growing seasons in their minds. Most vines will sag the same way when they're tired. A few keep a shape because someone built in support. This shape means a person at the factory decided to make that support, not for beauty, for clarity. Elena's growing theory suggests many pre-war accidents were actually documented by conscientious employees who chose ethical responsibility over corporate loyalty, preserving evidence of systematic problems through careful manipulation of manufacturing processes. Her plan to trace other anomalous objects back to their origins promises to reveal larger patterns of intentional preservation, conducted by individuals working within systems designed to obscure rather than preserve truth about safety concerns. The isotope signatures create mathematical fingerprints that connect manufacturing decisions to individual responsibility. Elena documents while developing theoretical frameworks through months of careful analysis. Dr. Morrison's work represents systematic effort to preserve warnings for future discovery, understanding that corporate structures would suppress evidence of safety violations through normal documentation channels. As winter deepens and research continues, correspondence travels along caravan routes toward researchers across the continent. Elena's requests seeking any items labeled with S7 designations, marked with marginal asterisks, or displaying the particular isotope shoulders that speak of intentional documentation rather than manufacturing accident. The investigation creates expanding network of scholarly inquiry, connecting isolated communities through shared commitment to understanding rather than mere survival. The vault settles into extended research mode as Elena's equipment provides capabilities that transform routine archival work into sophisticated investigation, revealing patterns invisible to less precise analysis. Our bottle rests in climate-controlled security while contributing to understanding that transcends individual curiosity into collective inquiry about how societies balance innovation with safety, progress with responsibility, individual needs with ethical obligations to future generations. In the protective atmosphere of underground archives, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil while serving as key evidence in investigation, revealing deeper truths about individual conscience and systematic preservation. The blue glow emanates steadily through controlled environment, carrying forward not just atomic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who have recognized its quiet significance and chosen to preserve rather than merely possess. Elena leaves careful notations in Marcus's ledger before evening rest, sentences written without drama, yet carrying profound implications. If the Station 7 signature is consistent across facilities, there will be a person behind it. We should look not only for plants and processes, but for Dr. Sarah Morrison herself, her methods, her network, her complete investigation preserved in products that survived when documents could not. The pattern emerges through patient analysis as evidence accumulates toward understanding that certain pre-war objects serve as bridges between past warnings and future wisdom, preserved by individuals who chose courage over convenience in embedding truth within systems designed to obscure it. Our bottle serves as confirmation of theoretical frameworks connecting individual conscience to collective responsibility, evidence that personal integrity can survive institutional pressure through creative preservation methods that speak across centuries of transformation and change. Tomorrow will bring new correspondence along established trade routes, different kinds of searches beginning as investigation expands from objects to origins, from patterns to people, seeking the complete story of Dr. Morrison's quiet courage and the network of conscience that may have extended far beyond individual facilities into coordinated documentation campaign preserving warnings for exactly this moment of discovery and understanding. The blue light pulses steadily through underground quiet, measuring atomic time while connecting careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying evidence of human conscience embedded within consumer products, by those who understood that truth requires protection across whatever transformations corporate power or catastrophic change might bring to the Sheena world. Spring brings the vault's radio room to gentle life, as Elena's carefully coded transmissions travel along established networks, her requests seeking not drama but confirmation. Additional instances of Station 7 signatures, marginal asterisks in salvaged factory records, unusual isotope profiles in preserved consumer goods. The responses arrive with the patient rhythm of scholarly correspondence, each transmission adding another piece to a puzzle that grows clearer with accumulated evidence rather than sudden revelation. Word travels through the reliable channels that connect scattered communities of learning, in ledgers tucked into trader saddlebags, across evening radio frequencies, through careful letters that bridge settlement to settlement, carried by people who understand that promises kept create the foundation for all future trust. What began as Elena's printouts and Marcus's accession cards expands into a wider conversation that draws scholar archivists from 7 different facilities toward Vault 114's neutral ground. They arrive through spring's gradual warming, each representative carrying evidence that speaks to patterns extending far beyond individual discoveries. Dr. Margaret Reeves from the Commonwealth Archives brings quantum variants bearing identical Station 7 designations, their isotope concentrations matching Elena's precise specifications with mathematical certainty that transforms coincidence into systematic design. From the Western Research Collective, Dr. James Chen contributes theoretical frameworks developed through years of analyzing unusual radiation signatures, his calculations revealing sophisticated understanding of atomic chemistry applied to evidence preservation. The Vault's conference room, converted from administrative space through Marcus's patient renovation, provides sanctuary where territorial boundaries dissolve into shared commitment to truth, transcending community politics and resource competition. Chairs gather around tables, arranged with librarian precision, lamps shaded to provide patient glow that transforms utilitarian space into collaborative laboratory, where careful minds can work without distraction or haste. Our bottle rests near the center of the assembled materials like a punctuation mark that closes one clause while opening another. Its blue glow, steadier than flame and gentler than fluorescent light, provides natural illumination for the documents and artifacts that surround it. Factory logs with their careful asterisks, personnel records revealing employment patterns, photographs of similar bottles discovered across continental distances, each piece representing patient work by individuals who recognize significance hiding within apparent randomness. Elena builds her presentation with methodical precision, allowing correlations to emerge naturally rather than forcing connections through dramatic interpretation. The spectrometer printouts rest beside Tommy's composition notebook, the plateau unmistakable. Now that trained eyes have learned to recognize its significance, Harold's warehouse photographs provide visual confirmation, while Maria's archaeological documentation traces provenance through decades of careful stewardship, each observer contributing pieces to understanding that transcends individual expertise. The pattern extends through at least 12 production facilities across 8 states. Dr. Reeves explains while arranging photographs that demonstrate consistent anomalies transcending geographical boundaries. Her voice carries quiet satisfaction of confirmation rather than excitement, understanding that truth emerges through accumulated evidence rather than intuitive leaps or wishful interpretation. The collaboration unfolds with gentle precision as researchers share specialized knowledge developed through necessity and adapted to post-war limitations. Corporate memos preserved in scattered archives reveal systematic suppression of safety concerns, executives prioritizing profit margins over consumer welfare, while creating institutional environment where conventional whistleblowing would face administrative suppression or legal retaliation through established corporate channels designed to protect institutional interests. Through patient cross-referencing of personnel records, the group reconstructs professional biography with scholarly thoroughness that reveals systematic approach to evidence preservation, extending beyond individual facilities into coordinated documentation campaign. Dr. Sarah Morrison, quality control specialist, appears consistently throughout factory documentation, not flagged by policy, but lingering in back rooms of manufacturing processes. Her name associated with Station 7 oversight across multiple locations and time periods. She supervised isotope injection cycles during a 12-month period that ends abruptly on October 23rd. Marcus observes while consulting salvaged employment rosters. His pencil traces connections between dates and locations with practiced attention to detail, understanding that patterns emerge only through systematic comparison of fragmentary evidence preserved across decades of transformation and change. The asterisk reveals itself as more than notation. It becomes signature of systematic resistance, appearing in margins of factory printouts, warehouse logs, and quality control documentation, with precise consistency that speaks to deliberate communication rather than casual observation. Each mark represents moment when individual conscience chose truth over institutional convenience, preserving warnings in forms that would survive administrative destruction and corporate suppression. A lunch pail with false bottom yields index cards wrapped in protective paper, numbers that appear to be batch codes until transparent grid makes them coordinates on distribution maps. At corner of each card, asterisk drawn with scientists' unassuming certainty transforms commercial data into evidence of systematic investigation, conducted by someone who understood that corporate structures would suppress conventional documentation through established channels designed to protect institutional interests over consumer safety. Dr. Morrison used the product itself as evidence. Elena explains while organizing documentation that reveals her systematic approach to preservation. When official reports were suppressed, she embedded warnings within consumer products, creating evidence that would survive administrative destruction while remaining accessible to future researchers with appropriate analytical capabilities. The revelation transforms understanding as scholars recognize that our bottle represents more than manufacturing anomaly. It embodies systematic effort to preserve truth across whatever transformations corporate power or catastrophic change might bring to society. The unusual luminescence serves as beacon connecting careful documentation to individual courage, evidence that personal ethics can survive institutional pressure through creative methods that speak across vast transformations of human civilization. No single item rises above others in importance. Instead, story assembles itself from supports that can be tested and verified through multiple sources. Dr. Morrison's voice emerges from holotape preserved in cloth sleeve, its careful cadence offering no accusation, but only inventory, sample identifiers, measured concentrations, dates, and phrase repeated like scientific thesis for independent verification. The recording speaks across decades with quiet authority of someone who trusted that careful people would eventually exist to continue her work. The method is the message, Elena notes, while making entry in Marcus's permanent ledger. She assumed someone like us would exist. Not this specific group, but a community. Enough people doing enough careful work in enough places to let the pattern emerge through patient analysis, rather than dramatic revelation. The scholars handle newly understood artifacts with profound respect, understanding that they represent vessels of moral courage, rather than mere historical curiosities. Their discussion explores implications extending beyond technical specifications into broader questions about how societies balance innovation with safety, progress with responsibility, individual needs with ethical obligations to future generations who inherit consequences of current decisions. Through gentle conversations among researchers representing different communities and methodological approaches, deeper meaning emerges as our bottle's anomalous properties receive reinterpretation from manufacturing error to systematic preservation effort. Dr. Morrison wrote to future in language she hoped would eventually be learned, preserving warnings in forms designed to survive whatever changes corporate power or catastrophic events might bring to world. These bottles are letters. Maria reflects during evening discussions, where technical analysis merges with philosophical understanding of how objects carry human intention across time and space. She places fresh origami crane beside our bottle, folded with same quiet geometry that marked her archaeological discoveries. For the keepers, she says, understanding encompassing both living and departed without requiring specification. The group documents collaborative findings with methodical precision, creating comprehensive records that transform individual discoveries into collective understanding while ensuring Dr. Morrison's legacy receives proper recognition rather than remaining buried in technical analysis. Their work demonstrates how systematic inquiry serves purposes extending beyond academic curiosity into community education and ethical responsibility, connecting past warnings to future wisdom. Commitments take written form as scholars prepare to return to communities, carrying understanding that transforms isolated curiosity into collective knowledge. Riverbend will train apprentices in artifact care, sending them to vault in staggered seasons so knowledge grows through layered increments. Ezra will add notation system to root cards for similar discoveries, creating network that recognizes pieces of same systematic preservation across wasteland distances. Marcus drafts plain language guide titled Reading the Asterisk, designed for settlements whose most sophisticated instrument might be kitchen scale, repurposed for seed measurement. The document explains luminescence patterns without mathematics, offers images of ledger marks and bottle stamps, and concludes with page listing verified names. Morrison foremost, then co-workers who signed overtime rotations and transformed manufacturing station into quiet witness for future discovery. As spring deepens into early summer, the vault prepares for our bottle's next transition from archival evidence to educational tool. The blue glow that once puzzled Tommy's scientific curiosity and caught May's commercial attention now serves as beacon connecting careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying evidence of human conscience embedded within consumer products by those who understood that truth requires protection across whatever transformations the future might bring. The revelation settles without triumph, because triumph would misrepresent life spent being exact and careful rather than dramatic. Dr. Sarah Morrison chose available tools to preserve what policy could not protect, creating simple redundancies, glass and margin, station and signature, so strangers in another century could repeat her measurements and arrive where she had stood, not to accuse, but to protect future generations from institutional negligence disguised as acceptable risk. Tomorrow will bring careful preparation as our bottle continues toward communities that understand how individual objects carry collective memory across centuries, transforming from consumer product to historical evidence to symbol of individual integrity, operating within institutional constraints. The unusual luminescence continues its steady pulse, atomic heartbeat measuring time while connecting conscience to preservation, carrying Dr. Morrison's quiet courage toward hands that will recognize its significance and guide it toward its destined role as teacher rather than mere curiosity, illuminating paths toward collective responsibility through patient dedication to truth and systematic care across the vast transformation of the world. In the protective atmosphere of underground archives, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil while serving as centerpiece of investigation, revealing deeper truths about individual conscience and systematic preservation. The blue glow emanates steadily through controlled environment, no longer puzzle but sentence completed, ready to travel toward communities where children will ask good questions and elders will nod, because story makes sense to those who have spent lives keeping people safe through habits rather than speeches, ensuring Dr. Morrison's legacy continues teaching long after its creator has passed into memory. Summer brings transformation to Vault 114's archives. As scholarly investigation evolves into something more generous, the careful preparation of knowledge for sharing rather than storing. Marcus Webb moves through the converted spaces with curatorial precision adapted to post-war realities, understanding that traveling exhibitions require both intellectual rigor and practical durability to serve communities across vast distances and unforgiving terrain. The collaboration unfolds with gentle efficiency as researchers transform their discoveries into educational materials that bridge academic understanding with community accessibility. Elena Vasquez translates complex spectrographic analysis into clear explanations that emphasize human choice over technical complexity, while Maria Santos contributes photographic documentation that tells stories through careful composition rather than mere illustration. Each artifact receives individual attention, protective housing constructed from salvaged materials, yet engineered with museum-quality care for preservation requirements. Our bottle finds sanctuary within a specially designed display case where its blue glow emanates through viewing ports that protect fragile glass while inviting contemplation. The unusual luminescence creates natural focal point for educational materials that explain Dr. Sarah Morrison's systematic preservation efforts without overwhelming visitors with institutional jargon or technical abstraction. A small brass plaque, polished but unadorned, rests at the base with simple inscription: Nuka-Cola Quantum, batch QU77S7, preserved for independent verification. Conscience Artifacts emerges as the exhibition's organizing principle, encompassing objects that represent individuals who chose ethics over expediency when institutional pressure demanded conformity over truth. Communities across the Wasteland contribute their own examples through careful correspondence networks. A Robco field manual with safety margins rewritten in careful script. A Poseidon Energy shift roster where names appear underlined on days when emissions rose. A child's diary from a contaminated toy factory documenting strange rashes and whispered fears. Each contributed item receives respectful documentation that transforms objects into teachers rather than mere curiosities, understanding that material culture carries moral instruction across generations when properly interpreted and carefully preserved. The curation process reveals profound understanding of how individual conscience operates within institutional constraints, while creating legacy that transcends immediate circumstances through patient dedication to truth and systematic resistance to corporate pressure. Riverbend receives the exhibition's inaugural presentation as autumn light filters through community meeting halls, prepared with contemplative attention, appropriate for serious reflection. The space transforms through careful arrangement, evening light resting on benches that once served different purposes, cloth maps pinned to walls showing the exhibition's planned route, small origami cranes tucked where frames meet tables as blessings folded from habit rather than ceremony. When the protective cloche descends over our bottle, the room finds its center without anyone needing to direct attention. The blue glow emanates with patient steadiness, catching in glass curves and resting against wood grain beneath, creating presence that holds time rather than measuring it. Settlement members gather with quiet anticipation, understanding that they witness something more significant than entertainment, an opportunity to engage with moral questions that shape community governance and individual responsibility in their post-war world. Dr. Patricia Chen speaks with the same gentle authority she brings to garden meetings, explaining without selling, inviting without insisting. We are not here to condemn a world we did not live in, she says, hands folded loosely so no one mistakes her for a judge. We are here to recognize the people within it, who remembered that numbers represent lives, and who chose to act accordingly. Volunteer guides move in thoughtful pairs, farmer with scientist, teacher with trader, each offering perspectives the other cannot supply alone. Ezra tells stories of how artifacts travel without being lost, how careful wrapping and fair exchange keep culture in motion across wasteland distances. Marcus describes how lines of ink, repeated across different ledgers, become language that speaks across decades. Elena points to spectral shoulders on graphs and compares them to the way vines hold themselves when trellises have been placed with forethought and care. Children ask the best questions, and the answers resist being more than they are. Does the bottle feel? A young voice inquires with genuine curiosity. No, comes the patient reply, but the people who made it did, and they wrote their feeling down as numbers. Is the blue dangerous? A little, like a stove, which is why we place glass between and teach how to keep respectful distance. Who was Sarah? Scientist who used the tools she had to tell the truth when some systems resist seeing what does not serve them. The exhibition teaches ways of seeing rather than declaring itself a school. Visitors learn to match patterns of dots on bottle caps to charts, to notice when ledgers contradict one another, to listen for differences between rumors and records. Reading the asterisk rests on tables anyone can reach, bound in tough fiber with pages that lay flat, transforming technical knowledge into accessible wisdom that communities can apply to their own governance and decision-making processes. Through gentle interactions between visitors and knowledgeable guides, the memorial helps communities process their own relationships with technology, authority, and individual responsibility in circumstances where survival requires balancing cooperation with independent judgment. The conversations reveal sophisticated understanding of how ethical decision-making operates within community structures, while maintaining space for individual conscience when collective wisdom proves insufficient or compromised by external pressures. The bottles teach us that truth-telling doesn't always look like standing up and making speeches. Marcus reflects during evening discussion sessions, where technical analysis merges with philosophical exploration. Sometimes it looks like doing your job with extra care, keeping better records than required, making sure evidence survives even when institutions fail to protect what matters most. Riverbend's practice of object meditation deepens in the presence of these gathered witnesses. On the second evening, lamps lower until the room exists within just two lights, a lantern at the door for safety and the blue glow under glass. People breathe together without plan, the way groups settle when shared attention replaces conversation, notebooks appearing because hands need to remember what minds are learning through patient contemplation rather than hurried instruction. The exhibition's impact grows organically as it travels through established trade routes, each community adding layers of understanding through local perspectives and specialized knowledge that enrich overall narrative without compromising essential messages about individual conscience and collective responsibility. Settlement after settlement receives the traveling display with reverent attention, fostering connections between communities, while encouraging contemporary conversations about governance and ethics that strengthen democratic participation across the transformed landscape. Our bottle continues its journey as honored teacher rather than forgotten relic. Its purpose evolved from consumer satisfaction to collective wisdom through accumulated recognition of its significance as evidence of individual integrity operating within institutional constraints. The unusual luminescence serves as gentle reminder that moral courage can illuminate even darkest circumstances, while inspiring future generations to choose truth over convenience when facing ethical challenges that require personal courage rather than collective action. Word travels ahead through reliable channels that connect scattered communities of learning, in ledgers tucked into trader saddlebags, across evening radio frequencies, through careful letters carried by people who understand that promises kept create foundation for all future trust. Requests arrive from settlements not yet on the planned route, communities contributing their own examples of conscience artifacts, while seeking opportunities to engage with educational programming that transforms scholarly investigation into community wisdom. As winter approaches and the exhibition prepares for expanded circulation, our bottle has achieved transformation from consumer product to cultural artifact serving communities across continental distances. The blue glow continues its steady pulse, atomic heartbeat measuring time while connecting careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying Dr. Morrison's quiet courage toward hands that recognize its significance and guide it toward its destined role in collective education, about individual responsibility and systematic resistance to institutional pressure. The traveling memorial demonstrates how scholarly investigation serves purposes, extending beyond academic curiosity into community development and ethical instruction that strengthens democratic participation and individual responsibility across the vast transformation of human civilization. Through patient dedication to truth and systematic attention to detail, the exhibition creates lasting impact that transcends immediate presentations through ongoing conversations and policy discussions that shape community governance, according to principles preserved by those who chose conscience over convenience in the final days of the world that was. In protective display cases constructed with museum-quality attention to preservation requirements, our bottle maintains its luminescent vigil while serving as centerpiece of educational program that transforms individual discovery into collective wisdom. The unusual properties that once puzzled Tommy's scientific curiosity and caught May's commercial attention now illuminate paths toward collective responsibility through patient dedication to truth and systematic care, carrying forward not just atomic precision, but accumulated human attention from all who have recognized its quiet significance and chosen to preserve rather than merely possess. The exhibition settles into evening quiet as communities across the wasteland prepare to welcome these traveling teachers, understanding that some lessons travel best when carried by patient hands toward places where children ask good questions and elders nod, because stories make sense to those who have spent lives keeping people safe through habits rather than speeches. Our bottle's blue glow emanates steadily through controlled atmosphere, serving as beacon that connects past courage to future wisdom, ready to continue its extraordinary journey from consumer product to collective memory, from manufacturing precision to moral instruction, illuminating the persistent truth that individual conscience can survive any transformation when preserved through systematic care and patient dedication to the light that lives within careful attention and systematic love. The seasons turn with gentle persistence as the traveling exhibition completes its final circuit, correspondence flowing along patient networks that connect communities across the transformed continent. Word arrives through established channels that New Haven, risen from the foundations where May's Corner Market once welcomed neighborhood customers, requests permanent stewardship for the exhibition's centerpiece, understanding that some teachers serve best when allowed to settle into places that will tend them with appropriate reverence. Lena Henderson approaches the rebuilt market with keys that catch morning light, filtering through windows positioned to echo the original building's relationship with seasonal illumination. The space breathes with inherited wisdom about how commercial environments can transform into community sanctuaries through careful attention to both practical needs and the social gathering functions that make neighbors into family. New timber frames, old walls, yet the essential character remains. that quality of welcome that transforms utilitarian transaction into acts of mutual care. The morning light carries the same golden quality that once illuminated May's daily routines, now filtering through new glass onto shelves, arranged not for merchandise but for contemplation. Behind the counter, a mason jar stands where May's once did, glass rippled by age and filled with bottle caps that catch light like tiny coins, each one saved not for rarity but for the stories they tell about reading closely, even when haste suggests otherwise. Our bottle finds sanctuary in a specially prepared alcove along the south wall, where afternoon light naturally gathers. The display case lifts it to eye level without asking it to perform, the blue glow answering with its steady pulse. The same note held through decades, untroubled by applause or neglect. The familiar companions rest nearby, Tommy's notebook page with his careful measurements, Harold's photograph capturing the unusual luminescence, Maria's origami crane folded from habit rather than ceremony. May would have understood, Lena reflects, while adjusting our bottle's position for optimal visibility. She always said some things ask to be more than they appear, and that proper care means recognizing what each object needs to serve its highest purpose. Children discover the display with reverent curiosity that echoes Tommy's original wonder, yet carries hard-won wisdom about responsibility accompanying knowledge. Their questions reveal sophisticated understanding developed through community education that values both innovation and precaution, progress and environmental stewardship. Why did she hide the truth in bottles instead of telling everyone? Asks a young voice with genuine curiosity. Because sometimes systems resist hearing what they need to know, Lena explains with patient clarity inherited from generations of careful teaching. Dr. Morrison used tools available to her, understanding that truth preserved in multiple forms has better chances of surviving and reaching people who can act on important information. Evening brings familiar transformation. As the market becomes community hall, chairs traveling from different rooms, the way stories travel from different lives. The settlement gathers not to be impressed, but to be reminded of principles they already practice. Careful attention to how individual actions become collective systems, and how those systems require checking by both rules and human judgment. Our bottle's luminescence provides gentle illumination for conversations about governance that balance authority with accountability, innovation with precaution. The cooperative's charter, handwritten on broad paper, gets unrolled and examined in sections. Where it describes transparency in decisions about water and power, someone gestures toward the display case and observes, "This was that." Where it outlines how any worker can call for audit, another traces the asterisk symbol and adds, "And this is how." The blue glow serves as both night lamp and center of gravity, drawing no heat yet somehow warming the space where people lean closer when they want courage for difficult questions. On some evenings, Elena joins by radio, her voice carrying through gentle static as she explains how isotope plateaus tell different stories than spikes, why steady shoulders can be forms of handwriting. On other nights, Maria sits near the back, folding cranes for anyone wanting to learn how flat things can remember 3 dimensions. Beyond the market, in workshops that hum with different rhythms than the pre-war world offered, human hands build tools the way gardeners make rows, thinking about the next hands that will use them. Where factory arms once measured syrup and fizz with mechanical precision, craftspeople now create sufficiency rather than speed, writing costs where anyone can see rather than shading them in corporate ledgers. The narrative completes its circle as our bottle rests where glass doors once reflected, small town afternoons, and curious eyes pause to consider light, living within ordinary forms. Yet the circle widens rather than closes, each revolution encompassing more understanding, deeper connection between individual conscience and collective wisdom. Through voices of children who visit regularly, we hear questions about the old world and hopes for the new. Their observations reveal how moral instruction travels across generations through patient teaching rather than dramatic pronouncement. The blue light never gets tired, notes a girl whose grandmother remembers May's original store. Like keeping watch, so we remember to be careful with important things. Yes, Lena agrees, making notes in ledger that echoes May's careful record-keeping traditions. Some lights are meant for watching rather than showing off. This one reminds us that being exact and patient can be more important than being loud when protecting what matters most. As night settles over New Haven with familiar sounds of community at rest, our bottle continues its eternal vigil from the alcove, where its glow provides gentle illumination for anyone seeking guidance about ethical decision-making in complex circumstances. The radioactive heartbeat pulses with atomic precision that connects careful manufacturing to systematic documentation, carrying Dr. Morrison's quiet courage toward future generations who inherit both opportunities and responsibilities for maintaining democratic participation across whatever transformations await. In the protective darkness of community sanctuary, our bottle maintains its luminescent watch while serving as teacher rather than curiosity. The blue light emanates steadily through controlled atmosphere, no longer puzzle requiring solution, but sentence completed, ready to serve whatever needs arise through patient dedication and systematic care. You can follow the path backward if you wish. Amber safety lights on polished steel, a ledger line, then photograph, a cooler door and breath on glass. A bedroom museum where wonder lived in careful arrangements. The long pause under protective shadows, dust settling like archaeological patience, then footsteps that meant care. Or follow it forward, because it continues in the way good work continues, each tomorrow bringing new questions and patient answers. Small corrections shared, processes improved through careful attention to what serves rather than what profits. The glow keeps time, but not urgency, promising presence rather than performance. It rests against the night like a hand on a shoulder, steady and warm. If you close your eyes, you can still see the blue under your lids, not demanding attention, but offering companionship, taking its slow pulse and lending it freely. Rest is part of the work. The light will continue keeping watch. When you wake, the story will still be here, and it will still make sense. Our bottle stands its quiet post as teacher, witness, and good neighbor, a steady moat of intention placed where hands can find it when they need to remember how to be careful and kind. The eternal vigil continues. Atomic heartbeat measuring time while connecting past conscience to future wisdom, illuminating the persistent truth that individual courage can survive any transformation when preserved through systematic care and patient dedication to the light that lives within careful attention and systematic love. In the gentle darkness that embraces all human endeavor, our bottle maintains its patient watch, no longer consumer product, but lighthouse the size of a hand, calling no ship but defining distance just the same, synchronized with the heartbeat of a community that has learned to balance progress with conscience, innovation with ethics, individual needs with collective welfare through patient dedication to the light that never dims, never falters, never stops teaching those who choose to learn.